Trauma Uncensored.
Trauma Uncensored.
Trauma Uncensored.
All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Trauma Uncensored, and today we do have a very special episode for you. And Brooke, that's not to say that every episode hasn't been special.
It's fine.
It's just that I think this is a very landmark. So we've already had our first guest in the form of Jess, Logan's aunt, who is your sister-in-law. But today we welcome for the first time, which hopefully it'll be the first time of very many, Mr. Jordan. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. It's Monday, a.m., I think.
It is. Actually, when people listen to this, it would also be Monday. Now...
And for those tuning in for the first time, possibly, Jordan is my husband.
Oh, that's right. If this is your first episode, well, actually, if this is your first episode, again, we've been recommending this every episode, but go back and listen to the first one where we go into detail about the reasons that we're here. But actually, if this is your first episode, this is also another one we may be referenced back to because we're going to kind of talk about the same day from a much different perspective. And so, Brooke, do you want to do the quick recaps that leads us up to the crash? Do you want me to do the 30-second Ace Ventura version of it? Or Jordan, do you want to tell us the crash and then the aftermath?
The 30-second, Jordan, not the 4-hour. Okay. Actually, let's let Andreas do it. So
okay,
neither
here we
of
go.
us. Mm-hmm.
All right. On September 15, 2016, Jordan, Brooke, Mallory, and Logan were headed north from Orlando and nearing Gainesville when they ran into some traffic. They were at standstill, and some asshole decided to be on his phone. And I'm saying that, and I put it very lightly, people. I have several names for him already. But some asshole decided to be on his phone, and... at an 80-mile-an-hour impact, crashed into the back of the Scherer's car, killing their son Logan, and severely injuring the 3 other members of the family. And so to this day, there has been severe consequences both to the gentleman that was driving and to the family, not just emotionally, but mentally and physically as well, those of which we've discussed in some matter, in some length so far, and of course with more detail coming up in different episodes. So today we bring Jordan on for the first time to tell us his story as a dad. This is being recorded specifically right after Father's Day, coincidentally. And now we want to honor Logan through his father and to understand the perspective of Jordan, who actually went blackout. He passed out right after the impact. And so with that, stay tuned for the whole episode because this is going to be a bumpy ride.
Hey, do you know that not only was it Father's Day yesterday, but 2 years ago yesterday, Andriotis was convicted of 30 years in prison.
Oh, that's right.
Yesterday, 2 years.
Forgot to mention that.
It's been 2 years.
Oh, that's wild.
Sentence,
which, by the way, you did hear that 2 years ago, which means this went on for 8 years or 7 years of like court problems and situations and
longer than it ever should have.
Yeah. So again, and we go into some of that in later episodes. We already have those recorded and they'll come out explaining some stuff about the trial. But we wanted to have Jordan on here the day after Father's Day. So by the time you're listening to this, it should be a week after Father's Day. So on to that. Thank you for being here, Jordan. Again, like I told Brooke from the very beginning, it's very brave to want to be, first of all, to be able to speak about something like this, even if it's been 9 years, and it's brave it takes a lot of courage to want to do this publicly on top of that. And of course, if people listening, if you are going through something similar, if you can relate, write to us. We'd love to hear from you. But with that, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Jordan, do you want to jump in? Do you mind if I ask you some questions?
Sure, let's go.
Okay. So I'm excited to talk to you because walk me through a little bit of what you remember from that day before the crash and then when you woke up in the hospital. Like, how far back do you remember until it goes dark?
I feel like I remember the drive. I remember pulling up to what appeared to be literally a parking lot on the interstate ahead of us. Then I know Brooke mentioned that we found out later that was approximately like a 3-mile backup from a wreck that had happened, or an accident that had happened earlier up just north. And somebody estimated that there were 1,000 to 1,500 cars more or less in plain view.
Yeah.
Ahead of us. Flat stretch of road. We were just like any other vehicle, any other family or group of people traveling north in their vehicle that day, on that road. And we came to a stop, and there wasn't very much time that went by before the impact happened. There was people. Right. There were several people that stopped around us, and then there's an impact. And I also have, I know that Brooke mentioned there's this feeling of the sound of an impact, like a metal, like a metallic impact.
You remember that?
Like a crash sound. Oh. Yeah. But then it goes black.
So you hear the sound, but you don't remember passing out, hitting your steering wheel or whatever, the airbag or anything. No,
I remember Brooke picking up her phone to check what the backup, how long that was going to be, to try to get an idea of how long that was going to be. Because she had an idea of when we were supposed to get where we were headed that day.
Right. Okay, so and then that's it. So it goes black.
Yeah. It all happens very quickly.
And that was actually from Tampa, by the way.
Oh,
we were headed
Tampa,
to Ocala. Yeah.
Okay.
Not Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
Good check. Oh, by the way, and this is important. If you guys are listening to this and there's stuff that's changed as far as this is all based on recollection. So if something's like some details different, like the car was blue instead of red or something, okay, please forgive that. Also, other data we are doing. We're gonna leave it. We've actually talked to Brooke about this. We're gonna commit to just leaving episodes as they were instead of editing them, and then just taking ownership for things that we realized were either said incorrectly or inaccurately. Obviously, nothing here is told intentionally incorrectly, or we're not lying about anything. But if we do find a mistake, or if we do need to be corrected, we will be the first ones to own up to it. And we just think that's a little bit more uncensored vibes. Is that fair, Brooke?
That's fair. It may make me go for half a second, but
hey, listen, but at least people know that we're being completely transparent.
Yeah, well,
as
and
much
you know
as
what?
We can be.
Listen, in my OCD treatment, they do that around exposure therapy, which sounds kind of crazy, but it is very beneficial. So I consider a lot of things exposures, kind of like how YouTube likes to pick up these crazy ass pictures or screenshots of my face contorted every way it can be, but saying things too in retrospect, hearing it, it's a good exposure because we all are, we're all human and uncensored. And so anyway.
Yeah. Hey, nice people have clicked on that thumbnail.
Yeah.
Dink.
They click on it.
I noticed.
Are you counting numbers too?
Yep.
So, okay. So let me have then a quick, Brooke, to hear from you. Just a quick recap from then, because you're the one that wakes up. You're the one that stays conscious. You're like,
no, I was out. We don't know how long I was out, but I did black out. I
thought you were conscious the whole time. See, this is why we do this. Okay, cool.
Well, and it's interesting because talking about the sound component, that didn't come up for me. Like hearing the crash, I don't think that really came up or that I could remember it until I started doing the trauma work. I think it was kind of like pushed back into the recesses.
Whoa.
I do remember waking up and smelling burning hair. What I thought was burning hair. I do know that the arm hair, I was burnt on my arm where the airbag had deployed, but it's hard telling if it was the airbag that I smelled or the burnt hair or the burnt skin on my arm. But it was it was burnt. But see, that's what I remember waking up to. It wasn't for years that I would remember the actual sound, but I do think that sound was part of the trauma work I had started to get into. So I can faintly hear it. I can faintly hear it now, just like a little immediate something.
Brutal.
But
okay.
But we know in reality that is really the only sound that we would have heard, because there's no breaking, there's no he wasn't able to ultimately do anything to adversely affect the impact. So, for instance, there were no tires squealing or any sounds like that. It would just would have been crash.
And I would also amend not to say wasn't able to. I would amend it to say he didn't do anything. Yeah. I mean, remember,
there's forensic,
12 to 14% increase on his throttle when he hit us, which means he actually sped up into us.
He was speeding up because he didn't see you. And it takes a lot, and we've shared this on the trailer too, but if you're going 80 miles an hour, it takes 2.5 seconds to travel a football field. Mm-hmm. So, it doesn't take a long time for you to be looking down at your phone.
And remind me,
before you hit someone.
Jordan remembers, I believe, how much clearance, how much opportunity did he have to see us if he had actually been looking? Do you remember that statistic or that number?
Oh, I think that they factored in somewhere between 1/4 and 1/3 of a mile of flat road
where he could have seen
ahead
us.
of him.
Yeah, because that's another thing we didn't mention. There wasn't raining. There was no like fog or something like that where you're like, oh, I didn't see that there was people standing still. Nothing. I mean, it was a clear day, straight road, flat road, no trees, no curves.
It was fairly clear, flat road. You came over a crest of a hill, and then it was 1/4 to 1/3 of a mile straight ahead. We are unclear on the, like, I feel like it may have been it had done that quick Florida raindrop, and then recently
that 3-minute shower,
and then cleared it out, and it was sunny again or clear. Yeah, which does happen there. There was some discussion about that during the trial. So,
but regardless, you didn't hit the brakes. So that would have affected. The visible.
Yeah.
He didn't.
Well, and the fact too that
he saw his phone and then saw his airbag. Is what was.
Yeah.
That was the order of the things he saw. Sorry, Brooke. I interrupted
No, that's all right. I was just going to say, even if it had rained, because I do remember them talking something about there had been a shower. There had been a shower, like one of those quick Florida showers before, but he drove literally right into us. So if it would have been wet, and it would have been
didn't really make a difference one way or the
road,
other.
Right? I mean, well, he probably would have. There could have been swerve marks, or, it's. But anyway.
Yeah. Point is, Brooke was first one to come to. And again, if you haven't listened to if you want the details of this, episode 1 is one to go check out. Brooke sees Logan. He died on impact. Mallory is pinned, broken leg, and Jordan's foaming at the mouth, passed out.
Mm-hmm. You know what's interesting? I don't know if I mentioned this in the first one. Jordan walks away from this needing 5 staples in the back?
5 or 6.
Yeah, in the back of his head. And I remember when I woke up, there was this really long piece of metal that was laying right there, angled and at the center console. And that has stuck with me for so long, because I've wondered if that's what hit Jordan in the head. That could have pierced straight through one of us. I mean, it's this long piece of metal.
What was it? Was it his car, your car?
No, it was part of our car, part of something. I mean, hard to tell what it was.
Something that broke loose.
Yeah, I mean, I've never asked, but I just remember this long piece of, I don't know, it was probably about an inch wide piece of metal that was laying in between Jordan and myself. So if that's what caused his head injury, then we're extremely lucky, because that, I mean, especially at those speeds. Remember, we went from 0 to 41 miles an hour in less than a tenth of a second. Think about how fast that thing had come off and flown. I mean, so there's so many variables, but I do have to wonder if that's what hit him on the head.
Now, I had to ask you guys this because I don't think I asked you, Brooke, but have you guys ever gone back to this scene? Have you guys ever been back to where it happened?
We have.
She's been very close, and I have been very close a couple of times. Like I took her one of the days during the trial, I purposely took her without her actually knowing, alongside of the interstate. There's a on the west side of it, there is a nature preserve area that you can drive into, and I tracked where mile marker 302 was with GPS and just drove back there, and I was like, yep, we're right about here. We're right about here. And we stood there, and we were headed to the courthouse that morning.
I spread
was it the beginning of the week, or maybe day 2 or something?
No, I think it was the first day, and I spread some of his ashes right there too. Do you remember?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now I was back there myself. I was back there within a month or two, because the company that I worked for in Tampa, we did jobs up that way at the villages.
Yeah.
Where we were was on the way to the villages area. I mean, we were headed north of there, but we were very close to the villages.
And that's on the interstate there,
generally.
right?
Yeah.
That's not 95. That's what, 75?
75.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh
So,
my God.
yeah,
I've driven on that road. I've driven past that mile marker.
Yep.
That's wild.
They have since completely changed the way everything looks. They've reconfigured, like there's an exit nearby, and they've changed things. So I couldn't tell you what it actually looked like along that stretch where the mile marker is,
Sure.
compared to what it is now. But
Oh, I remember it.
yeah. So it's always the story of the actual day is always very weird to me, because everything that I actually have is based on the story, the lore that has been built around this whole thing, because I was knocked out. We don't know, somewhere in the neighborhood of a half an hour or so, I think, is kind of the guess for me being blacked out. I sustained a level 3 concussion, obviously a TBI, traumatic brain injury, and we don't really know. I do know, however, that, as Brooke has mentioned here, she's already recognized. She thinks that she's pretty sure that Logan has gone, and she thinks that she doesn't know how I am. She thinks that I may be dead as well, because I'm unresponsive and I'm foaming at the mouth.
Yeah.
Well, and honestly, I didn't know Logan was gone. I think intuitively I did, but my brain didn't want to believe that. But that's the
I have
first,
always had a difficult time attempting to state that.
Yeah.
Because I can't.
It's one of those, it's just one of those parental things that you know, but you don't want to know, and you don't want to admit, and until you're told. But for him, that was the thing, is I remember seeing him. He was the first person I saw, and I remember when I woke up, he was the one I started screaming at. I started screaming at Jordan, because he was slumped over. He was slumped over the steering wheel, and he was foaming at the mouth, and and I see this big thing in between us, and he's just completely unresponsive, completely not moving. I didn't think he was breathing, but it's like that assessment of the car and looking at Logan and thinking, then looking back at Jordan. And I do remember thinking, I can't lose my husband too. So, not wanting to admit that I believed and I felt like Logan had passed, because you don't want to admit it until...
it's writing on the wall, but if there's any words on the wall, that it's not good. You don't want to read it, but you're like, it means bad news if there's something up there. Like,
well, and then after they did call Logan, because they wouldn't tell me, I mentioned this before, but they wouldn't tell me anything about Jordan and Mallory, but I knew Mallory was okay, right? Because she was conscious and she was screaming. So, I mean, even though she was in that much pain, it was a good sign that she was at least screaming.
Yeah, that she's awake to feel the pain. Yeah.
But he didn't move. And I tried, after I was standing over there next to Logan and they told me about Logan, and I tried to get in to see Jordan and nobody would tell me what was going on. And I remember them working, as I walked up to his door, they were working on him. But they kind of shushed me out of the way, pushed. I don't want to say push, but they were like, "You can't be here right now." And I'm like, "Is he at least alive?" And they wouldn't tell me anything. They wouldn't tell me a damn thing. And so I had to sit with that for.
No, they shoved you on past me.
I mean, that's probably part of the training where it's like, hey, you're gonna have people who need to just be cleared out for us to get to do our job. But that's still crazy that they wouldn't. I mean, I bet you if they told you one thing and then they were wrong, then it'd be worse or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it. In the moment, though.
It's
completely excruciating.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I get that. I mean, again, I don't have the exact experience, but in the NICU, when they go into the point where they don't give you your baby after it's born full term. And, everybody tells you, oh, yeah, they give you the baby wrapped in a blanket, and then you go to your room, and 2 days later, you're home. Like, that, we didn't have that experience. It was, they're prodding in. I'm looking at Bree's right here on the table, and and you can see intuitively, you're like, something's wrong, obviously, because you were not giving the child to me. You're keeping things over there. And then they go, come with us. Again, intuitively, you're like, oh, something's wrong. And then you go, what's wrong? And they don't tell you, and you're like, that's even worse. Yeah, that's... So I sympathize. Oh, it's brutal. So okay. So let me ask this. So Jordan, you're at the hospital. You come to.
Well, I can tell you the only memory that I have from the scene after the impact is faint visuals of. I can remember Mallory and I being loaded. I just being told that we were being put into the chopper.
So you had some consciousness in and out.
There was that. There was a little bit of in and out by then, and I don't know how much later. I don't know how much later it is to them trying to get us both or them putting us both in the chopper. But I have faint images of that.
Wow.
But then that's it. And then
and you didn't have enough to reason.
Sort of thing.
I've been in a car crash. Or were you able to put that together?
No, not really.
You just remember someone telling you that, and you're like, sure.
There wasn't enough. There wasn't enough information to get through yet. Yeah. So then Then the next thing that I remember is I'm in an ER. Not know if I knew where. I'm not sure if I even knew the hospital at that point. And I'm sitting in a wheelchair, and there's an orderly with me. They're waiting to try to figure out where they're going to put me. And sort of much like Brooke, the guy there, after a minute or two, tells me that the guy who hit us is right here. And I'm having all of this sort of recognition just all at once. Like, oh, well, I think I'm really sore. I can't feel a lot of things, but I'm moving some things. And you're telling me that that's the guy over there that did it. And I don't exactly know what to do with that information. Although I innately recognized, well, it's not like I can get up and go kick his ass.
Right. Even if you wanted to.
That much.
And if
I
you
was
did
able
want to, you couldn't.
It was right there. It was, and I had that thought, like, well, I can't do anything about it. Why? What? I remember saying, why are you telling me that he's right there? As if I can do anything with that information.
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
like, huh. Okay.
Who's that helping? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and
for
both
sure.
both of us were told.
I don't even remember
So-
if I could actually.
So this
turn
is
and
after
look.
you come out of surgery from
No.
as you're about to go into surgery.
I don't. I was in a wheelchair, and I pretty sure that I was in the ER. I don't remember if this happened before we saw each other or not.
No, it was before.
Whoa!
It was,
so this was before,
I think
and
it was
Brooke is still
pretty
being
fresh for me
Brooke
when
is, Brooke is still on the way from
yeah,
because she came on the ambulance.
Yeah,
I
I
think I
probably
was
would have
still
been
in
there
the ambulance.
first. Yeah.
Yeah, you and Mal got
Well, but then that
right?
wouldn't. But that would make sense because he came behind me.
Again,
So-
Weird.
I don't know how long.
Yeah, it's
I don't know what
hard,
the
the
timeline
timetable.
is on
anything.
Of
Yeah.
this.
But then that's kind of the point of like
So
this episode is just we're just retelling as you remember because that's part of what leads to the trauma and that the way that you
lack
experience
of
things.
knowing anything. Yeah, I was completely in the black, and most of it. It's very accurate that most of my thoughts and the way that I mythologize that day in my head comes from the story that I've always heard from Brooke.
Yeah.
And other pieces of the puzzle that I have brought forward today, whether it be like images from media or things that were used.
Right.
I specifically know that Brooke talked about the last time that she saw Logan was when he's under that yellow tarp. Well,
Right.
I don't know if you mentioned it. I don't know if you mentioned it on here before, but there's an image online that there's a chopper image from somebody in the media. We don't know who shot this picture of the scene, and whether they're aware of it or not, that yellow tarp is there along the side of the road, and our car crumpled, and all the other cars, and Logan's right there underneath that tarp. And if there's anything that in this entire time has fucking angered me, is that image was still there, and it's still out there, I should say.
He was calling day 2, or the day after. He was calling the media sources.
Yeah,
and trying to get them to take it off.
Yeah, I would too. Holy hell, man, that's insane that they would put that on there. And how did they not know that that's in the shot? It's a big bright yellow tarp.
Whoever originally got it did.
They did. I mean, think about.
But it was used by these.
Well, I'm saying like they put it on TV.
Yeah, no,
that went through the editor and the producer and the cameraman and everybody involved reporting the story. That went through everybody before it went out.
What's gonna connect more, bring in more viewership, or get to people more? Is it going to be with the yellow tarp?
Fuck this family. Let's just
other,
show this drama. Like, God, come on, people, have some decency. I hate that.
And like I say, if you see the shot, which you can find easily. I'm not sure that everyone would be aware of what they're seeing unless it was pointed out.
That's fair. That's true
Because it is.
I've seen it.
It's a high.
I've seen it.
It's a high
I've seen it
aerial
because
shot.
I had to look when we were doing that. We were trying to do the trailer and the intro. We originally wanted to have like the news coverage voiceovers go over the music. For the episode, but the problem was that they charged, like, one of them was charging us $2,000 for 30 seconds of footage, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And then everybody else was really difficult, and so I was like, let's just pivot, which is why we went with your guys' voiceovers of saying Trauma Uncensored, which, if you guys didn't know at the beginning, that's Jordan and Mila and Mallory at the beginning. So anyway, so all that to say is I've seen all sorts of different footage as I was trying to like call the different news stations.
It's very easy to find still
and I know
today.
exactly
If
what
you
you're talking about. Yeah,
you research,
just look it up.
Either of us or Logan, you're going to find that picture.
Just look up Scherer family crash, Florida, and it comes up.
Was that your?
I looked up your name, Jordan's name, Logan's name, crash, Florida, in some combination, and actually it's interesting because if you put Jordan or Brooke or Logan, different things come. I mean, some of the same ones come up, but different ones come up, and like, that's weird. That's a different story. And then of course a lot of about the trial came up. I mean, I've seen the video of Andreotis apologizing during his hearing when he's like, "Oh, I should probably do this now since I'm really gonna go
that
to
was
jail."
his sentencing.
Christ.
That was during his sentencing.
Yeah, during the I saw that, and I'm like, "Yeah, where's this been for 7 years, buddy? Yeah, you're just saying this now because you know you're about to go."
He was actually told. We know that he was told at a certain point
not to reach out,
not to make any attempts to reach us.
Wild.
We know that he was trying to. But from a legal standpoint, they told him not to.
All right, so I refrained from that.
Yeah,
my bad, Andreotis. If you tried and I didn't know, didn't mean to call you out like that.
Doesn't matter. He still was driving and not paying attention and put himself in that situation.
That probably wouldn't have stopped me, but that would have then gotten me in more trouble if I were in his shoes. So, or whatever,
Sure, fair enough. It would have been worse. But
I can see the angling. I don't know that I could have walked around with what he was carrying, what he's carried.
Yeah, that's right. That's understandable. But the
been
point is still the point.
Well, that's been the whole crux to this situation, right? Yeah. I mean,
there are humans on all sides of it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. It's kind of like how, remember during sentencing when all I could think about were his kids, his wife and his kids, and how do I sit there? Again, the case wasn't Brooke and Jordan Scherer versus Gregory Andreotis. It was the state of Florida. So we actually weren't, outside of being witnesses, weren't actually involved in any of it. Aside from, asking for him to be prosecuted. But, it really hit me specifically during sentencing because I had done work by then. And, yes, he did this to our family, but to sit and think about his children and his wife, and it was out of my hands. That's the thing. Yeah. That's the column A part of it, right?
That part is a whole episode too.
Well, and so, and column A we've already talked about, but but it's going to come post.
Everything's going to tie together eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's why that's one of the things that we love about the way that this podcast kind of has turned out to be like that naturally is like the story will kind of tell itself, and it's been great to just kind of, Brooke keeps saying, I will go on these tangents. I'm like, no, but those are important tangents to go on because that's how you're processing what happened, and which is the point of dealing and carrying trauma is this, right now this is your processing, and then the next time you talk about it, it'll be different because it just helps to have it spoken out loud, and that's important. People need to understand that is important. Talking about what happened to you is some sign of healing, right? Because there was a point where you couldn't talk about it. Then there was a point where you did, but it was scary. And the more and more that you're able to talk to somebody, talk to yourself, somewhat professional. By the way, we're not professional.
No, not professionals.
Counselors or anything here. But we're just
experienced in life.
Life has happened to you two, and it's tough. Death has happened to you two, and it's even more tough, right? And it was in a way that it happened to you. You know what I'm saying? It was someone did something to you. And to my point is, he does have a family. Andreotis has a family, and he has kids, and they're growing up and knowing that their dad, is in prison for what happened. and not what happened, for what he did specifically. He did that, right? But that is a situation. Someone died. Your son died, and someone has to take the consequences for it, because you guys are paying for it emotionally, mentally, and physically. And
well,
it's fair.
You know what's interesting?
That's
Remember
just
this. Well, and I know Jordan can talk a lot about this because this is originally his. So I'm going to throw it out there and then let him talk about it. But I wouldn't even say consequences. I would say take responsibility for it, which is one thing that not one time we have heard come out of Andriotis's mouth. Remember in sentencing, and you were really upset about this, he never took accountability and admitted what he was doing at the time. He danced around it. Do you want to talk about that, or do you want me to finish it up?
Yeah, he never... all I wanted to hear the entire time of the trial itself, but for all the years leading up to it, I wanted to know from his mouth what he was doing. Mm-hmm. We had forensics figure it all out. Forensics figured it all out and could tell us what he was doing, but I just wanted him to fucking admit it.
And he couldn't remember. He couldn't remember
doing. Well, that's what he said.
I know. Well, that's what I was saying.
He knew what he was doing. Yeah. He knew what he was doing.
But during sentencing, when they were questioning him, I can't remember what I'm doing.
Well, he's probably legally told to do that. So
yeah,
to help
no,
his case.
There's probably that. There was never I was doing this. This happened because I was doing this. That's what I wanted.
Well, yeah, because
so it's like
I see what you're saying. It's because here's why what you're saying makes sense to me and maybe people listening, to make sure I'm understanding you. Because even if he did blackout prior, like, people black out before they crash as well. Maybe he did, whatever. It doesn't matter really. It's still the reason that's still bullshit. Or maybe he was told legally to say he didn't remember. Regardless, when you drive and you put your phone in your hands and you look down at your phone while you're driving a car, there are this story, thousands of stories. We're about to reach the 42-minute mark. Somebody's story statistically has died because someone was distracted driving. That means doing their makeup. That means eating a burger. That means looking over to tell their kids to shut up, because people do that all the time. Whatever reason, they were not paying attention to the road. When you're doing that, there's enough movies that this happens to, enough people that this happens to around your life, that the minute that you look down at your phone or that you look over to the thing or whatever the hell you're trying to do, that you could hurt somebody. Like, that's not news to anybody anymore. It's in the same way that when you drink and you're driving, that you shouldn't be doing that. So even if he doesn't remember, he knew inherently, hey, I'm on the fucking highway and I'm on my fucking phone. And he knew that could hurt someone. And then he did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's why Jordan, that's why I'm hearing you say it. It's just to hear him say, I messed up because I did something I should have not done, that I knew I shouldn't have done. I knew I shouldn't have done that. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like when people, it's the difference between, like, you accidentally kill someone, like, I didn't know that, there's so many different ways that it could be an accident. That was not an accident, like you said, Brooke. Mm-mm. He totally could have prevented it. Oh, it was raining. Okay, sure. You trying to hit the brakes, didn't catch, hydroplane, and then boom. That's a different story. That's an accident. He knew what he was doing and that the dangers of what he was doing, which is why ever since I've met you, Brooke, I was already kind of like this, but like I committed internally to myself, if I'm in the fucking car, my phone is away from me. If my baby's crying, then my baby's crying. If my wife's talking to me, I like to make eye contact when I talk to people, even if it's on camera right now. I don't care. I have to keep my eye on the road, and in Logan's honor, just because of that. And I think a lot of people listening should also do the same thing, and because what can happen. I now intimately know what can happen, and it's so fucking frustrating. Just as me, I can't imagine what you guys have had to deal with.
Takes me a lot of work to be able to see people do it and not just want to rage, but it still gets to me. It does, especially in certain circumstances. It'll get to me.
Yeah. Oh man.
I told you the story, right, about the person when we called one person out when we were living in Indy, and we were stopped at a stoplight, and the guy got out, and Jordan had his window down, and the guy physically like put his head in our car. Do you remember that?
Shit.
We were on our way to grief counseling, interestingly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you?
We can't
get the fuck off your phone, dude.
I imprint cars, and he was driving a middle generation Honda Passport or Honda Pilot. Yeah. Yeah. I remember.
Wow.
Yeah. He got pissed because we called him on it. Like, get off your fucking phone.
Yeah.
You know, I've said that so many times, and it's less now. It is less now. That's been part of the work. I felt compelled just last week coming out here, headed toward home, and there was a kid in front of me, and he swerved really big at one point.
Mm.
And you know.
And I know instantly, because it's like 1:00 in the afternoon.
You're not drunk.
That's exactly it. The odds are completely against the fact that he's smashed. It's much more likely that he's on his phone.
Yep.
So when I finally was able to get up alongside of him at a light, you know, I motioned for him to put his window down. I'm like, dude, you got to get... He had his phone in the cradle at that point.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, he just got a point for that. But I'm like, you got to stay off the phone, dude. You swerve like nobody's business back there.
Yeah. And that's all it takes. If you had sworn
he
left...
actually, this is the first time this has happened. He didn't want to hear what I had to say. And he handled it the way that I probably would have handled it when I was that age. And he flipped me off. And man, that...
Maybe he'll listen to this and he'll hear that and be like,
to,
I know that was me.
I had to chomp on that for a little bit and just like, I get it. I understand, but maybe he'll hear it. Maybe, I don't know. I asked him as I have several times, like, do I need to follow you home and have a discussion with you and your parents right now?
Yeah. Child.
Like, 'cause I'm ready.
Yeah.
You know,
but it is human
You don't know
nature.
who the fuck you're messing with.
Right. And that's the thing too. That's kind of,
know.
I think that's why I think we've learned we got to be really careful about that shit, because you never know what could happen in today's day and age, anything. So we
I
kind
mean,
of
people
have to,
carry guns in Tennessee.
Yes. Oh, yes,
sure.
they do. But they
The only time I almost got in a fight because of road rage, I was in Czech Republic. I'm like in the Czech Republic, and the guy, I'm fairly certain this guy won't have a gun, so I'll get out of the car and talk to him about it. He came out to the car and started talking to me, and I came out. I was like, all right, let's talk. And I was much taller and much larger, and he goes, no, and he turns back around. And I'm like, yeah, I got a video of this. I'll send it to you guys after this. But in America, I wouldn't do that. I'm like, especially not in like Florida or Texas, Tennessee, maybe here in Oregon.
sometimes the push is too much.
Well, but
sometimes it's like I have had really good interactions before in situations like that where people were completely stunned with what I was able to tell them, and they're like, oh my God, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was kind of pissed off at first when you said something or when you stopped me, and it's really hard to avoid doing that. It's really hard. There's been a lot of work for me around just you can't do anything about what they're doing in the here and now. Just get where you're going and don't worry about it. But
you control you and tell as many people as you can.
It's really hard a lot of the times
I
when
can
it's
imagine.
right in front of you, because people don't understand that the angle for me has always been like, it's not just about you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's about everyone you are sharing the road with now.
You're driving a weapon, and
It's
everyone
about
else
your
is driving
family.
a weapon.
It is about everyone else's families that are driving along beside you. And guess what? A 17, 18-year-old kid doesn't get that. Just the same way that a 30, 31, 32-year-old guy didn't get that in our case, in our situation. You know?
Yeah.
Well, and that always goes back to, again, to the invincibility factor, right? All humans live
That's
with
not
the
gonna
idea
happen
that
to
they're
me.
invincible. Exactly. But also, you did something by talking to him about it, and even by keeping your cool, he acted like a normal human. He knew he was doing something wrong. He got called on
Yeah,
it.
got called
Yeah.
for his shit.
And
Yeah.
that
And people
was
don't-
his response
Yeah.
because he was embarrassed
Yeah.
or he got
Yeah.
caught.
Yeah.
And
That's true. That's it right there. People don't want to be told that they're wrong. Not to get political, but that's why people are so left and right or whatever. Either way, whichever way they stand, if something bad happens to the candidate,
it's
they,
true.
they vote for.
Oh,
or whatever.
conviction.
They're like, they can't be like, oh, I was wrong. If you get called on anything, it doesn't have to be political. It could be the way you're parenting. When your kid calls you out and says you said this and then you did this, and you're like, oh. Shut up, you little shit. But they're right, you know? My Rio's not old enough to do that yet, but I know I'm going to get to a point because she's smart like her mother and sassy like me, and I'm going to get caught red-handed, you know, doing something I'm not supposed to be doing. And she'll be like, well, you said, and I'll be mad because that's natural, like you said, Brooke. But at the end of the day, there's enough, this podcast and other things like this, there's enough information out there for you to know if you get on your phone, if you get distracted if you're doing something, when you're distracted while you're driving, you know the consequences that are potentially there, right? It could be that one time you got home fine. Every other time you've texted, you got home fine. Doesn't matter. You know that can happen.
it only takes once. And I tell a lot of people it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not worth it. It's not worth. It's not worth taking someone's life. It's not worth injuring someone severely. Like we've talked about the statistics of people dying due to distracted driving, but there's like 100x people who get severely injured, right? Mallory was injured, Jordan was injured, Brooke was injured. So there's
And we still carry those injuries with
there's
us.
3 major physical, lifelong, chronic injuries on top of the fact that you killed someone. So, and it could be you. It could be you. Not to scare you, it's to get you to respect and honor what's happening when you take a weapon into the public.
Yep.
So, Jordan, I have to ask, and maybe we can.
I'll breathe for a second. Ready? And regulate the nervous system. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of healing, right? Okay, Jordan, and again, as much as you can remember or you feel comfortable sharing, can you talk to me about when you get informed that Logan has passed?
Yeah, one of it would have been Corporal McMillan from the Florida Highway Patrol. She introduced herself as having had been on the scene, and she was the one who told me that Logan was dead in the ER, happening not much longer after, at least to me, and my awareness came, not much longer after I remember, that the orderly telling me that Andriotis was right over here. So somewhere in that same brief amount of time, I was still in the wheelchair. She comes to me, introduces herself, and said, tells me that Logan has passed. And she has my broken glasses that were on the road, separate from the vehicle, and gives them to me. I remember thinking, well, even though I can't see right now, I'm not sure what good these are going to do for me, as they were completely mangled. But yeah, it was just a kind of she was very nice about it. Very, very forward and calm about telling it. I could tell that it was a real struggle for her to share that information, just literally from one human to another to tell me that at that point. Even in how, kind of out of it that I was, I could feel that from her. And don't remember if she had spoken to Brooke before.
She had
already talked to you. So, and I feel like there had been the recognition that between the two of us by that point, like you were aware that I was okay, that I was there or something.
I knew you were alive whenever I heard you in the hallway. They were
yeah.
wheeling something, but still they wouldn't tell me where you were, what was going on. So when she came in and mentioned she was going to go see you, then I knew things were, that, you were at least okay to a point of survival. But what's interesting is, and I don't know that I've gotten it in the way that I'm feeling it now, but and the reason that this podcast for me is so important is because everybody has their own version of their traumas, right? And they always have something to share that can resonate with this person or this person that I may not understand, just as much as others can't put their shoes fully in mine. But Jordan, in all of these years, I think it's always been really hard for him to know what I carry from the day of the crash. Not knowing what was there, not knowing what I saw, all of these things. And hold on. Let me hear. Yeah, you can sympathize, but you can't empathize, right? And he's carried that very heavily for a long time. But to sit here and to hear him, I remember when Officer McMillan came in and told me, she gave me Logan's stuff, his Ray-Bans and his Game Boy and his clothes that they had to cut off of him. And I remember her telling me she was going to go see Jordan and tell him that Logan had passed. And I remember my heart just broke because I knew and he didn't.
Oh.
And to hear, it's hard for me to ever even imagine. I know what I went through on the side of the road that day, but I've done all my work, and I can handle that. But you love somebody as much as, Jordan and I have been through so much, and it's been rocky and it's been hard, but through and through, we're each other's person and soulmates. We determined that a long time ago, and we work hard because we love each other that much. We may not always like each other. That's, just step in our house for 5 minutes and you can see that. But to hear, just even to think about what that would have been like for someone to walk up to you in the hospital when you have no idea what's going on and no idea what's going on, and just to say, I'm sorry, your son didn't make it. For me, that breaks my heart. For him,
yeah. It feels, it's because that's the one part of this situation where you guys are both alone, right? And you're still alone emotionally and mentally through it, because you're there for each other because you both lost your son, but the memory of seeing him in the car is so traumatic and impossible, and you're alone in that because you can't share that with Jordan. And on the other hand, the memory just equally as terrible, that instead of having that memory of seeing him, you're sitting in your car, and then the next thing you know is, hey, your son's been killed. That's also, I don't even know. It's impossible to say quote unquote worse. That's not the word I'm trying to look for. It's like, it's impossible to even compare those situations because neither of those are like the same, but also both are just terrible.
It's shared experiences, but we don't know what the other.
Yeah. And so that's the part of this that feels the
carries
loneliest, because it's like, we can talk about this, but you can't go, remember when we both blah, blah, blah. Like that's, you guys have been together since that, but that's tough.
Yeah. Being in the dark about it all was really very difficult, but I was aware, kind of like I mentioned before, that I began to listen to Brooke's account of the day, or hear her tell it, and when we were sharing with other people, talking to others. I think that I began to an entire narrative started to form inside my head around the what happened that day, and it's actually very vivid, which is interesting because it's not part of my memory bank. Right. In reality, it's this almost a construct. What's been difficult for me, and one of the things that struck me, I'm realizing right now that I hadn't thought about it in a long time, but I don't remember the last words that were shared between Logan and I.
Oh man,
I fucking don't have that. That hurts. I have no clue. I didn't see him at all that I recall on the scene. I didn't see him until several days later, maybe 5 days later, when we went to deal with when we went to the mortuary. I hate even saying that word. What do you call that? Funeral place, funeral home.
You didn't even see him at the hospital? They didn't take him to the hospital?
No. Oh. No. He went to the morgue in that county. Or he went to the...
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he went with the coroner.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then had to be brought... brought down. Well, the people with the mortuary, the company, they got him. So I didn't see him until, what is it, day 4 or 5, maybe 5, I guess. After when I went there to deal with that part of it all with my mother, Brooke's dad, and her brother. The four of us went, and I had to see the first time that I would see our son again. The first time after the crash and the last time that I saw him physically was him after he had been partially prepared.
Right.
To that point, and it was a very interesting occurrence for me. It was the very first time that, here's where Jordan gets to introduce the woo-woo side of things on this podcast. But
do it.
Because I'm going to go there.
Jordan's woo-woos.
Go there.
I gotta quit turning to my right and still speaking.
You're doing great, by the way. You guys have not missed the microphone all episode. I'm proud of both of you. I know it means nothing, but I'm proud.
I saw. You have to bear with me for a second here. I knew that what I was seeing was the remains of our boy. Like, this isn't him anymore. This is his shell, his almost like a husk that was shed. Do you think, corn? Right. Or I don't know.
So kind of like when you go back to a house you used to live at, but somebody else lives there.
Like a seedling popped out of its, like a seedling out of its a bean seed out of its shell. Yeah. Like that's just what he left behind. And that he was something, that his essence was somewhere else. And in recognizing that, it was the first time that I kind of felt that Logan was right back here with me.
Yeah, like his soul.
Kind of like this. Oh, wow. Dad, that's not me.
Explain it for the people who are watching.
Okay.
Where was he?
He's like on your shoulder, grabbing your
He
shoulder.
he was with me in a different way, and I didn't understand that. So I don't try to attempt to explain it right now. Or from there, it was just that I was aware that his essence was existing in some other space, some other area, and that he had the ability to be around. And that I'm not explaining that well.
I think it's great.
Here and now.
I think it's beautiful.
But because I'm trying to say that I didn't understand it, but I was aware of something,
Yeah.
and that wasn't.
You're making a lot more sense than you think you are, by the way.
Well, that's good. That's good, because I typically explain it in a little more clear way, which is weird, but
I get it.
I didn't, again, I didn't understand any of this in the moment, but I was somehow bizarrely like at peace, but also really, really upset with what I was seeing. I was completely uncomfortable being there in the context that I was there as a what at that point a 30.
I was 35. You were.
I was 37-year-old dad who's at a mortuary to look at his dead son. And his dead 9-year-old son. It's just messed up in
it's
so
the
many
kind
ways.
of shit that should never happen.
And
to anybody.
I remember that was the first time that I was made aware. Again, the guy there was actually, I thanked him after the fact, because I didn't know, again, how do you know how to handle a situation, what to do in it, what to do with it, or how to react. But there was, he explained that there's a small, what did he have? There was a little
cloth.
There was a cloth over the back of his head, covering what, again, the guy explained that they had done an autopsy.
Sure. Yeah, to determine
on him at the morgue. The coroner had done an autopsy, and I was struck by that because that was news to me. It was news to us. And while I do understand that it's normal policy, they explain it's something having to do with the fatality of a child, that it's always done. I understand that. I feel like I kind of would have liked to have known about it
before,
one way or the other.
Well,
before
because
finding it just like that, finding out about it just like that. On top of everything else, your kid's got a hole in his head.
Didn't they just prepare you as you were walking in to what you were going to see, and you had no idea?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which as much as the guy could have done. He told us that you're going to see a cloth on the back of his head. So I'm like, okay. And it's like, oh. So the coroner, so he had an autopsy. They performed an autopsy, and we haven't been notified. Like, I haven't just been in the same hospital for the last 4 days, and Brooke's still there. And is it going to be like, we weren't hard to reach.
Yeah.
I wasn't going anywhere.
You knew people that could tell you where we were.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, that was exactly it.
Not just that it's like, why are you telling this to me after it's been done? It's just, I mean, it has to be done anyway.
Well,
but to just,
again, that was
just
just
so you know, this is going to happen.
That's what he was doing. He was making me aware. It wasn't really on him, but it became his job to tell me. And
it wasn't his fault, but it was his problem.
Yeah, dude, I wouldn't have wanted it to tell me that just then.
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of people probably in those professions don't want to, like the sheriff didn't want to have to come tell you. I mean, that's got to be part of their job. That's just like, holy shit, I have to go tell them this now, right? Like the cop that shows up to, like when you have parents who lose their kid in like a drunk driving accident or something like that, and then there's a cop that has to go to the house to tell the parents, and you're like, oh, that job, like nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to be the person that. I bet you coroners, it's an interesting. We need them in society because we need them in society, but somebody has to do that job. Mm-hmm. Somebody has to be interested to do their job, which is a whole different conversation. But I bet you the part of their job that they like the least is when there's a child that comes through, and then they're like, okay, this is gonna have to be this is a whole situation, and they have to tell the parents this. I mean, that's a tough part of your job, man. That's rough. Ugh.
Yeah.
And it's tougher to be you guys on your end. Just be like, God damn it. I mean, it's everybody. There's a human involved in every part of this entire situation, and all of them are. I mean, that's just something that they have to face in situations like yours. And that's
what's interesting to me are the people who did go to the morgue that day and the people who chose to stay back. In like the closure component of it, maybe like my mom has said that she went, or she didn't go because she didn't want to see Logan that way. That's not how she wanted to remember him. Jess didn't go either, but then Jordan, his mom, my dad, and then my brother all went. It's very interesting
Weird.
to me. It's nothing that I can define. It's nothing I can say it's this versus this, or
and it's
this
not
is
good or
why.
bad. It's not like a moral
absolutely
thing. No.
I don't know. You know what? I couldn't because I was hooked up to the wall, so I literally could not get out of bed.
Right.
Out of my hospital bed, but I don't know if I would have. Gone.
It's an interesting part of the equation that I doubt has been discussed thus far, but all three of those people are either currently or have been estranged from us.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of them is passed.
Yes. Yeah.
And the other two are estranged. Mm-hmm.
Very
from that group.
Very interesting.
Whoa.
And
Okay,
I had never thought of that,
well,
but that's what I thought you were just headed toward.
Well, I was estranged from my dad before he passed away. So
I
so
was
all
including,
So all three of them have been estranged at some point
after the crash.
After the crash, who went to that, and then the ones that didn't go to that have been close.
Yes.
Weird.
Like Jess has been on the podcast before Jordan.
Yeah.
Like that's how close.
Yeah, exactly.
Very interesting.
Look, shh, don't bring that up.
No.
He's gonna make a big deal about it.
If you want, we could swap the episode release dates.
Too late. Jess is out today.
No, that is actually. You know what? Think about that. That
gets into a later topic that I'm sure you're going to cover is what it's been like to deal with people around us in the wake of all of this. And the
we've touched on it briefly.
I think there's an episode we touched on it, but we haven't
it.
gone into like the family specifically or like the people that were there because some people are like your friends and stuff and they went away, right? And then there's other people who are still your friends. They're the marathoners that Brooke referred to. Right. But then with the families are weird. Because they have to, like, you see them at Christmas and shit. Like you have to see them. I mean, I guess you don't have to.
And
generally,
we don't
you
have
see
to.
them again.
There's the extended family, which has been interesting, but the closer relationships, parents, siblings, that has been a lot more interesting than you might have thought, and it's been difficult along the way because it's those relationships have become fragmented and broken in a lot of cases, and I don't know that it was. I don't believe it was ever intentional. It's just been a thing where people didn't know how to meet us where we've been.
Well, it's not just about not knowing, though.
And how could you?
Also about
so hard.
Not being able to, or not wanting to recognize. I don't know that it's not being able to recognize, but it's not wanting to recognize their own traumas.
Yes.
And come together, like work on it and then come together. You know, like Jess has done a shit ton of work for herself. You know, my mom, while I think my mom has actually learned a lot through us but she's been willing to open her mind as we've spoken about things and told her, you know, things that we need, right? Like that's my mother. You know, I still need my mother. I still needed my father, but unfortunately my father, and through all of this, needed me to take care of him.
Yeah.
Needed me to make him feel better, to help be his therapist. And I had to set a boundary where I was like, Dad, you're my father. You are my father. I should not be having to act as if this was your child.
Yeah.
Because it was my child and I still need my dad. I can't grieve this and care for my own children and care for myself after losing a child and care for you too. And it didn't matter how many times I communicated this with him. It never changed. And I know I've mentioned it before, but my dad was the person who would say, I've gotten this far in life with who I am. I'm never going to change. And for me, that was the line in the sand. You know, I'm sorry if you can't change and you can't actually be the parent, then that this relationship is too toxic for me to be a part of. Yeah. And we had been estranged for almost a year before he died.
Yeah. I mean,
I never said goodbye to my father.
He lost a grandson too, and that's tough for him, and he didn't handle it well. Like that's a clear example of like, hey, this is how you do not heal from trauma. This is a good way to actually drive a wedge when you actually need to build a bridge, right?
Well, and that's the thing is Jordan and I have never removed the fact that these people in our lives are grieving our son as well.
Oh yeah.
But the difference is that first and foremost, we are the ones who lost the child, right? We lost the child and we will grieve with you, but we will not take care of you in the process.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to do the work to unpeel these layers and unravel all of this, and we are, and you still can't be supportive of us, then unfortunately we have to do what's best for us.
Oh yeah.
And
this shit's 24, what have I said before? This thing is 24/7, 365 for us. We don't get to
forever
step,
until
we don't
you die.
get to step out of it. It's part of the fabric of our lives. It just is.
Yeah. It's not even a chapter in your story. It's a book in your story.
Our son is not somebody that, like I can't see him come in the door this afternoon. You know, we can't give him a hug. You know, he would have graduated just a few weeks ago. Yeah. Just a couple of weeks ago. And just turned 18. You know, it's we don't get to change, or we don't have the ability to change or do anything about that. And if other people can't see that where it is,
what do? You can't.
You can't even
I love
finish
your expression.
that
I love
statement.
your expression.
Finish that
It's like,
statement.
sorry. Well, you know what it makes me think of, Brooke, is in a previous, at this point, it might be a future episode we talk about this because of the order. But one of the episodes that we recorded, we talked about how you got dumped in like a cold ocean. And then the way that you heal is you have to get to shore. But even when you get to shore, now you're just wet on a beach and still cold. So it's not like you're done. And then healing is actually like building a fire. Okay. Remember that analogy?
That was,
by the way, for people, you'll see it in future episodes.
Yeah. It's coming in a couple.
Coming, and it's a great analogy. But in that same analogy, where your family members, they're also dumped into an ocean, the same ocean. It's just they're closer to shore. And so for them to turn around and be like, come on, help me swim. And you're like, bitch, you're closer to the beach than I am. Like, you go. I'm just trying to stay afloat over here. You at least have a life jacket. Get your ass on the beach. I'll meet you there. But I can't have you.
These people over here don't have the ability to carry you along too.
Yeah, nobody.
just-
I mean, because everybody
just
gets dumped
don't.
on the ocean. You two being the parents and closest to Logan, and during the crash and all that stuff, you two are the furthest out into the middle of the water. You can barely see the island you're supposed to swim to. They're like closer to the beach, right? And your dad, for example, for him to turn around and be like, "I can't do this." It's like, dude, look how far I am. God damn it, just go. Don't drag me down from way the hell over there. Like,
Well, and that's what made the episode with Jess. I mean, her being on and talking about her experiences. I think that's what was so valuable about listening to hers, is that Jess has always made room for us without her shit interfering. Right. And I don't even like to use the word interfere, but she did not need us to pull her through the overall grief. I mean,
Right.
you heard it. I mean, in that episode, she said that, she was being strong for us, but she's over here going, what the fuck do I do for myself?
Yeah.
Where for a lot of other people, it was, I'm so sorry you lost your son. Help me. This is
Help
what
me.
here's a phone conversation a month after he passes. Well, I'm going to lay on you what my experience was like the day that I got the phone call. And
even though
at
I
this
wasn't,
time and this
I'm not
day,
physically
month ago.
recovering from a crash that also happened.
I mean, there's so many examples that we could give on experiences that we've had. But that's what makes, the Jess is really important. And my mom was grieving, and she's another one that I feel horrible because, I was so focused on trying to survive and live day to day that she's in the muck of her own. But, my mom takes us in after we moved back to Indiana, and, she's down, and she never put her grief weight on us. And I don't think ever has. She's always been good, but see, she's learning so much, and she's learned so much that before, for quite a while, she'd be kind of quiet on Logan's birthday or on September 15th, and she wouldn't say anything to me, not wanting to, make us feel bad, or she wouldn't say anything to us. But I have told her repeatedly, please do reach out. Even just an emoji, just something, reach out. Don't be afraid of us. And she now does that because she's actually actively listening to what her children, and I use children because I feel her and Jordan are very closely bonded. But she listens to their needs, and she hears in this grieving process what helps us heal instead of making it about her, but now we're equally able to share that space. So, which we haven't gotten from others. And no matter how much we've tried, they just are unable to bend or.
And it was those three. And then others, but still, that's interesting.
Those three and the two.
I want you guys to, as we wrap up here, I want you guys to think about this. And next time we have you on, Jordan, I want see if you guys come up with any other thoughts on that, because that is vastly interesting.
I had never thought about it.
I mean, I can speak in depth on the people from my side of things that.
And I never will for him ever.
Yeah. But it's kind of that's another angle.
12,000 different episodes.
And that's why we have to have Jordan back on here as one of those regulars that you see in other podcasts where it's like, oh, in this one we're with Jordan, just because I think there's again that perspective, and I'm so excited that you came on to this one today, because I've been looking forward to getting to spend some time and to ask you from your perspective how you remember all this and how you have processed all this. So again, obviously this teases up so many different cool avenues we can explore with both of you guys on in the future. So I'm excited for that. Before we wrap up, Brooke, I forgot to mention this at the beginning, and I'll put this down at the beginning of the show notes as well. People listen up to this really quick. If you have questions, apparently our Q&A episode did very, very, very well. So keep sending
people
us
are reaching
those.
out to me a lot. And which I will tell you, the feedback I'm getting, the questions, the people who are wanting to be engaged, who are engaged, wanting to help in every way possible, my gratitude is there 150% completely. I'm so grateful for that. But I am getting questions, so I thought it would be interesting to
we'll open it up. And I think
up.
on the show notes I'll put in any on the other episodes. If you have questions to submit, please submit them to hello@trauma-uncensored. The show notes should have that email linked on the description below. I'll make sure that it's on there on all the other episodes just in the future.
If you want to be a guest.
And if you want to be a guest, email us there. We'll get to know you a little bit, and then we'll send you a link to book after that. So that's the process. Still reach out to us, shout out to us, and make sure that the subject headline, so that we know that you've listened to this episode, the subject headline be Purple Elephant.
Elephant.
Purple Elephant. So that way if we see the subject heading and it says guest, we know that you've actually listened to this part of it. So there is that. And then of course, like I said, we'll get to know you, hear your story a little bit, and either through writing or a quick call. And then if that seems like a good fit for the podcast, and we'll get you booked on here to be a guest.
Yep. Hey, I wanted to quickly shout out your T-shirt too.
Oh yeah.
I know people are asking for them. The shop should be up by the time this episode is out. So people can start trauma.
That's right.
Jordan can do it in 4,000 different voices, and
that is so good.
Trauma.
But yeah, the shirts are out. We got some merch. We got stickers. Also, I'm gonna be, as Franco said, I'm gonna vandalize my town with these stickers. He said, which is great.
That's what I was. I took 150 to New York City and came home with none. So
That's right. Love it. All right. Well, Jordan, thank you so much for hopping on, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
It's good to get to know you a little bit. And again, looking forward to the next one. We can get so many different angles of this. And you guys are both so incredibly tough. And I'm honored that I was able to talk to you guys. It's an honor to even be able to be this close to you guys and to get to tell your story with you. And so thank you for that as well. My name is Andres Gambo. This has been Jordan and Brooke Scherer. This is the Trauma Uncensored podcast. In next episodes, we're going to be talking a little bit about the trial and about how Brooke talked to Mallory about Logan's passing. And so that's, since we already recorded, we can actually hint at that as people are listening to this. We can do like a coming soon. So make sure you guys tune in for that. Please share this with anybody that you think needs to listen. Anybody that's healing, please tell them that they are not alone, that they can come here, and we're building a community to help people with trauma of any kind, not just losing someone, but any sort of significant traumatic event, please, or traumatic life. Please bring them to us. We will love to get to know people and have people's story be heard and have them feel like there is a place for them. Any last closing words before we get out of here, Brooke or Jordan?
Nope. I'll see you the next time you're coming on. I'll see you then. Not in between.
Okay.
Any closing words, thoughts, Jordan? It's okay if there's none. It's okay.
No.
That's all right. I actually almost like the honesty of no, there's not. Because sometimes I ask a guest in other podcasts that I do that, and they're like, Bitcoin is up or something. They'll just say something really random. You're like, okay, all right, well, thanks for that. So,
that's fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much. My name is Andres Gamboa. Brooke and Jordan Scherer. This is Trauma Uncensored. Bye, everybody.